All right, good morning, Dr. Gorey. Thank you so much for joining the Impact interview today. It's a pleasure to have you here discuss Western Australia's approach to carbon capture, utilization and storage, as well as the exciting opportunities in this space.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Me as well. So to start, could you please share an overview of Western Australia's current carbon capture, utilization and storage strategies, and how does it align with the state's broader environmental goals, especially in terms of sustainabilities and emission reductions?
Yeah. Western Australia, as part of Australia, has its ambitions around net zero by 2050. And Western Australia has adopted an approach to that of being very clear that carbon capture and storage is actually part of its overall economic development strategy. And so it sits within that plan for government. And the great thing about that is it gets the support and it gets the clarity for industry and their players about government's long-term commitment to enabling carbon capture and storage to occur. What we also have in Western Australia is an experience of a couple of decades of working in carbon abatement, carbon capture and storage. We have some active projects like the Gorgon CCUS storage project that many people will know about. But there's also other projects. There's investments that government has made, there's investments that research organisations have made, and there's investments that companies have made in understanding the geological opportunities for storage and also dealing with some of those technical issues that we know that CCUS may present. So we've got an economic strategy in Western Australia of decarbonising and diversifying. Carbon capture and storage is one of the enabling sectors for that. We have a history of investing and understanding what the technology is and how it can actually play its part. And we've actually got the business in Western Australia. We've got the companies, many Japanese companies, Inpex, Sumitomo, Mitsui, Mitsubishi, all have a footprint in Western Australia and experience in operating in Australia. And by operating, particularly in LNG development, we've actually developed a trained workforce, a skilled workforce that supports the small to medium enterprises, the training facilities. They're all needed to actually manage compressed subsurface gas management. So Western Australia is both well placed and actually committed to this.
Thank you, Dr. Gorey. So Western Australia and Japan have shared interest in carbon management, as what you said. So what opportunities do you see for the collaboration between the two in the field of CCUS? And what unique strengths do you believe each could bring to the table in such a partnership?
The partnership between Japan and Australia is built on many decades of economic and trade relationship. The two-way trade between Japan and Australia is somewhere around 140 billion Australian dollars a year. So there is an established, well-respected partnership between Japan and Australia. And I think what that means is that both Japan and Australia have very much been able to bring to the table the characteristics, the skills, the capabilities that really do match both countries. So for LNG developments that have happened in Western Australia, Western Australia and Australia has very much a positive economic policy for that. It has a trained workforce, it has natural endowment. Japan has shown it can actually bring to that relationship as well technology that is actually able to really develop those resources in a way that is both safe, environmentally friendly, and economically sustainable. So we see that partnership continuing. On the trade side, both governments are working closely to continue to build our trade relationships. The Australia-Japan Business Cooperation Committee next week here in Tokyo, here in Japan, in Nagoya. Next year, Perth is hosting that event. That's some of the support that the government can provide. We're also seeing from the research side a lot of support as well. JogMec is very much a trusted and reliable partner for Australia and Western Australia with our research institutes, and we've seen that relationship goes to helping these projects and helping these technologies work in a way that supports both the needs of Japan and the needs of Australia.
It's such an exciting opportunities between the two nations, and we're looking forward to witnessing the continued development between the two major powerhouses of CCUS. So, CCUS investments actually requires a supportive regulatory environment. So, what policies and regulatory framework are currently in place in Western Australia to encourage the CCUS investment and development? And how do this policy support international cooperation, especially with partners like Japan?
Yeah, the conference happening in Tokyo today, we've heard how important it is for the regulatory structure to be well understood and mature. And in Western Australia and in Australia, we actually do have the laws in place to particularly allow the safe for people's safety, safe for the environment, develop of CCUS. The the rules around those, particularly in Western Australia, but this is similar to many of the other parts of Australia, is built on the rules and the regulations around petroleum development. And we know that there has been a lot of experience, a lot of maturity in petroleum regulation over decades. So we feel quite comfortable for those operators. Many are familiar with the petroleum sector regulation. So the transferability of that helps a lot for understanding. Australia has also recently enacted the changes to the London Protocol. So the federal government in Australia made changes to Commonwealth laws to allow permits to be issued now for the import of CO2 into Western Australia and into Australia. And we know that that's important because many of the projects that are being looked at are hubs, arrangements which have an import opportunity as well. So we do have the rules already in place for that. The other thing I'd make mention of is the mature regulatory environment and that sits within the governments of Australia. So we do have this experience of regulating the resources sector, regulating dangerous goods, regulating high pressure gases. And so not only are the laws relatively mature in Australia, but the actual regulatory bodies are relatively mature as well because they've been built over many decades of regulating these types of sectors. So we feel we're well placed to actually deliver sustainability and certainty for those wanting to invest in Australia.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting news for both Japan and other major CCUS market who want to break into the Australian market. So every region faces challenges when it comes to the large-scale CCUS efforts. So what would you see are the primary challenges Western Australia is currently facing in the CCUS industry? And how do you envision international partnerships, particularly with Japan, addressing these challenges to unlock new opportunities?
Yeah, the technical issues with CCUS, I think that industry, research organisations, and those parts of government that support technical innovation, I think are well placed to deal with a lot of the technical issues that will be presented by this industry, and we're seeing that come through with the work that's already being done, the projects that are already operational today for either CO2 permanent storage or enhanced oil recovery with CO2 injection. So there is a lot of experience that people can feel comfortable with. I think some of the other challenges will be particularly around bringing communities along, and CCS is an enabling sector that's not necessarily well understood by those outside of sector. And so I think the work of partners like, I'll mention JogMec because of their work in this area, to invest in research, to be part of these research operations, and also to promote quite well to communities the benefits and how risks are being addressed. The other example that I did mention today in my talk was companies themselves are doing more to actually communicate to communities about what's happening. Obviously, a lot of oil and gas production, but also a lot of CCS happens below ground where it's not visible. The above surface infrastructure, in some cases, can be quite small. Often it's not visible in the physical sense to the community. So doing a bit more for sharing that with communities. And there's an example I talked about today, which was a project Mitsui E&P undertook in Western Australia only this year, where they did a injection test into Dongra 23, which is a depleted field in onshore Western Australia. And actually part of that test that they did was a technical day. In fact, they ran multiple technical days, inviting people from local governments, people from the sector, across the sector, as part of information sharing, as part of technical development of the whole sector on the tests. And of course, with tests is the data and the findings from those testings as well. And I think what we can see is partners doing more to share and collaborate with each other, with research institutions, and with communities. And I think that's really going to build some understanding within communities, so that when communities form an opinion about what's happening in that area, they're likely to be more informed. And I think that's the challenge, and that's the opportunity we have in front of us.
Yes, and we really hope the problems such as community awareness and also technology obstacles will be addressed in the near future. And thank you for sharing your invaluable insights, Dr. Gorey. It's really clear that Western Australia has a lot to offer in the CCUS space, and I'm really excited to see how the state's collaborations, especially with partners like Japan, will evolve.
Yeah, it's going to be a very exciting future for us, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you.